The first point I want to make is that because the nature of the migrant worker population in Bangalore is so complex and they are split into so many areas, one of the first things I decided was to get involved with an NGO that's worked with the migrant worker community for a long time. Otherwise, most of us start without enough knowledge of who we are trying to help. So I looked around, and then I came across this organization called Sampark, which does, the head office is in Koramangala first block, so it's not far from me. So that's tactically also, that is an important consideration. The daily packing happens in Koramangala first block in their head office. And then the trucks set out every post-lunch period for delivery. Mostly dry rations, but also cooked food. And they have connects with a lot of other NGOs, but more important, have worked with migrant labor for 20 years. So my involvement at this time is mainly in dry ration packing during the day times, every alternate day, I would say, and then accompanying the truck to the various locations in doing the distribution. So let me place in perspective that my exposure thus far has been limited, but it's been very, very useful in getting me to understand the nature of this problem. This is the first point. The second thing I wish to say is that from my learnings of the last week, the migrant worker population is quite unique in the sense that it is complicated, spread out, and most of this population does not have local roots. So the first thing in BNP's Adopt a Slum program that I would strongly recommend is to be clear about who we are helping. In every slum, you have residents of Karnataka, so who've got local ration cards, local certificates and so on, which enable them or at least make them eligible for state government benefits, and many migrant workers which don't have the benefits. So we should be careful that we are actually reaching out to people who are the hardest hit in the current lockdown. So from that viewpoint, it is good to focus on people who are truly migrant, not to say that there are others who are not in difficulty, but all I'm saying is we need to be a little careful to make sure that the money and kind in cash is reaching the right people. The third thing I've discovered is that there are many migrant worker communities which are part of the construction industry, which is divided again into unorganized construction and organized construction. The organized construction business, people are getting somewhat covered by the big builders, their own foundations, and a lot of business interests are involved because they would like to start quickly once lockdown is lifted, and therefore it's in their interest to make sure that migrant workers stays. So there's a certain organized intervention there that I have seen, but I have also visited sites which are just labor camps without any specific focus on any one project or any one builder. These are much more vulnerable that I can see. So my learning has been concentrate, probably best to work through NGOs at this stage who've been in this field, so you get an understanding of what is going on. Yesterday we did quite an eye-opening distribution. We went at Madhevpura and there discovered this unorganized labor camp, and suddenly out of the blue we were supposed to give 110 packets for 440 workers. The numbers swelled enormously and the whole team was very challenged. Then the cops had to come, broke it up. So that experience did not go well yesterday, but the experiences of the previous days has been relatively organized and relatively good. The mobile numbers, the numbers were slightly smaller, 40-50 people. Everybody had there was a pre-arranged mobile record, so the distribution went rather well. So I think the learning so far for me has been go with someone who's worked deep across Bangalore in migrant working communities. The second thing that I would also argue is please don't overdo it at this stage. there is a tendency in all of us to sort of want to jump in and do good, which I think is very, very important. But at the same time, we could end up exposing ourselves. Yesterday at the labor camp, the crush was huge and nobody was having protection equipment. Everybody was cheek by jowl, and it was not a very safe situation to be in. So I would suggest to all of us that we have to pace ourselves a little bit, because all of us live in apartment communities, and they themselves, we have a responsibility to the larger community. So space ourselves out, select the audience, make sure that they're truly needy. The third is that my learning has been to scope for more NGOs in our own vicinity, because with police passes and everything being a challenge, it is better that we are able to access the beneficiaries more directly, more quickly. So I have also found that institutions like Home for the Elderly, which are very strapped for cash right now, but they don't allow volunteers because of the elderly, being more susceptible to corona. But they are very, very, grateful and happy to get money so that their volunteers, their own people, can go and buy the thing. There are disability homes which are, I think, also struggling. There are homes for homeless people which are also struggling. So it doesn't only have to be migrants. Wherever I have seen migrants, in fact, many of them are younger bodied, able, younger, more resilient, and able to look after themselves in many cases. Though I think if this stretches for a week or beyond, more challenges will mount. But it is also good to focus on the disabled, to focus on the older people, to focus on mentally challenged people who are very vulnerable, I think, in the current lockdown. So I think we should not necessarily get fixated only on the migrant labor problem, but look a little more broadly to what we can do in our own neighborhood in Bangalore, and keep our own safety predominantly in mind. This is very important, even during packing, to make sure that we are completely protected from our fellow packers, make sure they're also protected, and then only set out for distribution. Distribution is also very challenging and exposes us to all sorts of parts of the city which can also be a challenge. But it's very, very rewarding. It opens our eyes to how a lot of people are living in the migrant population, and I've interacted with a lot of them from UP, Bihar, not so much Orissa, but certainly Uttar Pradesh. And the stories are themselves, a very interesting commentary on how this country operates at so many levels. So those are the few points I wanted to make, and I think there are other BNPNs like Brinda and certainly Lavi and others after me, the speakers also, who I'm sure have much more depth of experience. So I'm also happy to listen in. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Arun. Thanks for a quick overview of the work that you're involved with. And team, please share your questions on the chat, and we will request Arun and the other speakers to take up the questions at the end of the discussion. The idea here is to bring in many perspectives. While we are all involved in some work that we are doing, we also want to share the overall perspective of the variety of work that's happening, the variety of challenges out there, right? And before I introduce the next speaker, let me request you. One second. Give me a second, gentlemen. I'm technically challenged. Okay, the screen is up here. Yeah, before I introduce the next speaker, let me remind you that we are doing a tweet storm. Our BNP friends have shared WhatsApp messages with you about the tweets that are going out. Please go there, like them, and share them with your friends, retweet them. Yeah, thank you so much. We're getting a lot of retweets happening there. Moving on to our next speaker, I'd like to introduce Rupal Ralph. Rupal Ralph is a proud BNPN. She is very kind-hearted. Her neighbors would vouch for it. My interactions vouch for it. But what really stands out about Rupal is her bias for action. She is out there doing things. She's out there acting on what she believes. We'll hear more from her. She lives in the Harloor area. The perspective she brings an interesting perspective. She has volunteered and helped in a couple of earlier natural disasters. I'll leave it to her to share the details. Rupal, if you can switch on your camera.
Yeah, hi everyone.
Hi, and over to you, Rupal. Over to you, Rupal. If you can.
Hi, Rupal.
Floor is yours.
Hi everyone. Thanks for this opportunity. And yes, as Arun said, we have to be very careful while working with the communities wherever we are going, because when Lali found out a community or the list of people, we found that they were not in any BPL list. They didn't have a ration card, and that's why they were not added in any of the naming groups, and they were not the beneficiaries of any of the things that they were supposed to get. And it was a great effort, and we could distribute to those people who were really in need of the material, cooking, a single man staying as a labor, construction labor, and it was good enough. Yeah, I do have an experience of 2 disasters that I have survived. One was cyclone in 1999, and one was earthquake in 2001. So both the disasters were very painful. This, I feel, is much better. We are at home, safe, and we have the opportunity to do something for others at this point of time. But during the cyclone and earthquake both, I was a part of Leo Club, which is a child Lions Club, and we were supposed to be on the ground. We were not allowed to stay at home, and we had our own duties. And when I saw hundreds of dead bodies, lying in the sea, and during cyclone, most of the poor slums, the slums were washed off by the ocean water and the tsunami that came, and which was a different experience to work. And during earthquake, it were the rich people whose bungalows came tumbling down, and most of our own people who were taken away in that earthquake, in that natural calamity. So both were different experience, though the most thing that affected me was earthquake, because there were very known people who died in that earthquake, and I heard 6 months of that trauma, and I came back out of it. But on ground, yes, we were on ground giving food, giving necessities to the people. Here, the nature treats everyone equally. It is not that if I'm rich, I'm okay. If I'm poor, if they are poor, they are okay. Here, rich is equally, or the middle class, in fact, is equally into trauma, because they can't, talk to you, they can't speak to you, they don't ask anything from you. Whereas in the poor class, you see, they get everything, because everything is focused on those families, those migrant laborers. But what I try to do here is, we have a lot of families nearby. We have few ladies whose husbands are not here. They are in US. They are living with their old parents, or they have kids. They can't go out. They are diabetic. They have some or the other ailment, and they're not able to go out. So I reach out to them. I speak to them. Whenever I go out for my groceries or my vegetables, I speak to them, and I make sure that I get things for them. Working with the labor is one thing, working with that class is different. But here, yes, I do that because they are equally important. This feeling that we get that only the poor class is in need, and we are all okay at home. It's not that. We should try and reach out to pregnant women, pregnant women who are not able to go out. And I have seen, they have a checkup and they are not able to go out. They don't even call police, or they don't call 100 and call the taxis. For all those people, everywhere I'm there on WhatsApp, I'm available for them at night. If anybody needs medicines, I'm there, or anywhere. I'm always there. During my earthquake, even my house was, we didn't have a house. We stayed in a tent for 6 months. So at that moment, I've seen my father, going out, standing in a line for 1 kg wheat flour, and we didn't have a blanket. And we had to stand in a line for a blanket because it was 4 degrees that time, and in an open ground sleeping. But during those times also, along with our things, we also bought things for our helpers, for our maids. We didn't let them go out of our place. They were all staying with us, and we used to take care of them. Whatever little we had, we used to share with them. The same way, here also we are quite good enough at this moment. Corona is one, COVID-19 is one thing that has got us inside the house, but we have a lot of opportunities, here, working at this moment, going on live, taking out things for people, ordering things for people. I have been delivering so many of cloth pads to the needy. It's not that only, I work for a company though, so which is under essential commodities, and I go to office, with all the protection, and I make sure that people who are really in need get those things. And we have a great team in Velandur. Thanks to all of you for, we did the donation drive and we collected money. Still, we have not used it because we feel the first round everybody is excited, to give away things. People are getting a lot of things. And there will be a second round where everything will be exhausted, government will be exhausted, and then still the problem will continue. This will still continue for 6 months, 8 months, where everything is going to get normal, because every calamity that comes takes around 8 to 10 months to recover. I have seen that earthquake took around one and a half year for us to settle. The same way, this COVID-19 will also take around 6 to 8 months of our recovery. Still the migrant labor has already migrated. For them to come back and start the work is going to be a big problem. Those who are here taken care by their construction workers or construction, people, owners are fine, but the people who will come back will have a bad time. So we are using it. We are using the money very properly. If only people need, we are giving those things to them. We are not using it anywhere where people don't need it. Only I get many calls that this family is in need, that family is in need. First, we try to reach out to their owners and ask them to provide the ration to them. If the owners are not able to reach, or if they are not able to communicate with their helpers or the maids, then we reach out to them. It's my request that don't just help people because we want to help. It is just find out the right way and use the money in a proper way, because this will again take 6 to 8 months to bring us back, and whatever we are doing should be done very carefully. Yeah, that is what I wanted to say. And please be alert. Maybe in your neighborhood, maybe a lady is suffering. It's not that you are not supposed to go out so that you lock your ears also. I have seen many women suffering, many kids suffering they have a very abusive family. Husband who is a drunkard is not getting the daily dose of drinks and abusing women and child. So though you should be very protective about ourselves, but yeah, we should keep our eyes and ears open and help those families also. No, it's not just that we are safe. Yeah, we will take protection, and we are quite sure that our neighborhood is not much affected. We should not either call a police. the best is call 100. Whenever you find such issues, immediately don't hesitate in calling police, because they are very cooperative. We have been working with women who were in need, the husband was very abusive, and nobody in the neighborhood called the police. So even though I'm not staying there, I am very far from that place. I got a WhatsApp message and immediately I called 100, and the police was there to help her out. So please be aware of all the things around, not just the food, but even the clothings. The labor class who was working around, suddenly this lockdown, because of this lockdown, they don't have clothes to wear. So the other day, a labor came and asked my neighbor whether he has some clothes to spare, because the kids don't have clothes. They don't wash daily. They just keep on wearing till it tears, and they just throw it off. So just keep them aside. If in need, you can give it to them. So we will be doing that drive later on. We will conduct this drive for this daily wage workers also, for clothes and for the kids. Yeah. So this is in my mind. Let us see how it goes. But as of now, yeah, just keep your eyes, ears, and yeah, please be aware of where we are spending the money. We need to really take care later on in the second round also. Yeah. Thank you so much, Badri. That is what I wanted to share here. And yeah, thank you.
Rupal, thank you very much. It was an interesting brief sharing that you did. Like Rupal shared, she has seen multiple natural disasters like this. Many organizations are advising us to pace out the help that is being offered. Right? I've heard from several organizations that are already planning for a phase 2 and a phase 3 of this challenge. One of them was young people from the Rotaract Club, which is the Youth Rotary Club, right? So we'll have to plan this for the long term. Another PNPN did a very, very appropriate thing recently. Tahira, with your permission, I'll quickly share what you did. She noticed that a slum next to her home was receiving supplies every day or even twice a day from several donors, right? While she had no complaint about it, she realized that was not, the government was also giving them rations, etc. So she worked with her friends to control the flow, so that the flow is there for a longer time and the wrong people do not hoard it. So that's the message from Rupal there. Thank you very much. Rupal also touched upon the topic of domestic abuse. That's something that we're beginning to hear, and I think all of us should become aware of this and see what we can do. Brinda Adige, our friend and supporter, was not able to join us today because she's busy in the slums working with people. One of the things that she is doing, Brinda shared with me, is women are like, everybody is stuck in their homes. That's why we are on this conference call and we are not walking around and talking to each other. Everybody is stuck in their home, and this is very true about families that are stuck in small quarters in the slums, etc. For multiple reasons, families have the tendency to get more abusive, etc. So, and there's very little opportunity for them to speak out. Very interesting what Brinda is doing. She has asked women, and she has sent these messages through her worker circles and through the informal circles. Any woman that feels that she is being abused, but obviously cannot talk out, doesn't have the opportunity to talk out, when she comes out to collect rations, etc., Brinda has requested them to wear a red bindi in the palm of their hand. A red bindi, a silent message, a red bindi in the palm of their hand. And her workers are looking out for it, the social workers are looking out for it, and then they informally drop into the family's house and then spend a little bit of time and show that there is support and stuff like that without really broaching the topic of what was brought up, right? Yeah, thanks for touching on that topic, Rupal. Before we move on to the next speaker, let me request all of you to quickly go to your Twitter accounts and retweet, like and retweet our tweets there. Ranga and Yashas are sharing the links to the tweets right into your WhatsApp. Okay. Our third speaker is our own favorite friend, Srikanth. We had a small change in plans, and Srikanth graciously decided to offer to take the role. Srikanth needs no introduction. Srikanth will talk about his perspective of what BNPNs are doing. He'll also delve deeper into the Adopt a Slum program that BNP is doing at this point of time. Srikanth, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Badri, and thanks, Arun, and thanks, Rupal, for sharing your perspectives on what's happening on the ground. So first up, I wanted to communicate to everybody that there are people who've been saying, as citizens, we should stay away from this, let the government take care of this, and so on. The only thing I wanted to humongous. Hello, is everybody able to hear me?
You're breaking up, Srikanth.
Also, please switch on your video, Srikanth.
No, right now, if I do that, it's already a very weak connection that I have. So I hope people are able to hear me clearly.
Yes.
Yes, we are able to.
We are able to hear you now very well. Yeah, go on.
Great.
Yes.
So I was just saying that the scale of the problem that we are seeing is humongous. There are lakhs and lakhs of people who've been put out of work. These are the daily wagers, the construction workers, many of them residing in slums. And because of that, and because of, as Rupal said, it's of course a slightly different kind of a tragedy that we are seeing as compared to a cyclone or an earthquake. But I don't think in my lifetime, at least, I've ever seen anything like this. And I guess it's true for most of us here. So we believe at BNP and as very active citizens and as very responsible citizens, we believe it is our responsibility to support the government, to take part in whatever initiatives we can in the safest way possible, as both Arun and Rupal have mentioned earlier, in a way that we are able to mitigate the suffering that's being faced by so many of our brethren out there. So that's the first context that I wanted to put out there. Within this, very clearly, it doesn't need many people to go out. Different people can contribute in different ways. We have a section that we have put out on our website. So if you go to nammabnp.org, there's a section called as Adopt a Slum. Badri, can you give me presenting option? I can just take people through that site. At a very fundamental level, it's very simple. We're saying there are 3 different ways people can contribute, and all of this can be done sitting right within the confines of our home. We don't even need to step out for any of these things. In certain specific situations, it will be good if 1 or 2 people can go out and do some activities on the ground. But at the very fundamental level, there are quite a few needy families, small, let's say, hutments that are right out there. For me, it was an eye-opener. I didn't realize that there was a big slum sitting right next to a mall, which is very close to my place. I got to know of it. We realized that there are almost about 300 families living there, out of which more than 100 had gone off to their native places right when the issue broke out. But then there's still about 150 to 200 families that are still living there and are living in a hand-to-mouth kind of an existence. So first up, sitting from where we are, by just talking to people nearby when we are going out to buy our groceries, if we are able to identify needy families, or let's say even a a small slum that's out there that requires support, I think we should bring that to the notice of our team, or there are these bunch of NGOs that are out there. I think it's important that we all keep our eyes and ears open for where there is a need. In all this, of course, we need to be careful that there are some unscrupulous elements within those dwellings also, who try to take advantage of the situation, try to hoard provisions, try to take undue advantage of the situation by selling extra in black, etc. But by and large, the experience has been that most of the provisions have been reaching needy families and needy areas. So first up, let's keep our eyes and ears open for anybody who's in need. It could be one family, 5 families, 50 families, even 500. So that's the first thing that we need to do. Second thing is, we can contribute financially to any of these. On our site, again, we have created a section where you can donate. We have tied up with Global Concerns India, to whom you can donate, and you can even donate to specific families that have been identified or specific areas that have been identified. That's the advantage of technology that we have, where if you find a slum nearby, you can upload the details of that slum, you can contribute to that. We have our backend tied up where we have a vehicle with a pass, driver with a pass. We have a tie-up with Metro. We have created those standardized packages worth 1,000 rupees, which can feed a family of 5 to 6 comfortably for about 8 to 10 days, and so on. So the moment you do that, and if you can give us a coordinating point, we can actually help coordinate with that person and deliver the provisions wherever that is, but for which we need some money as well. And so far, I'm extremely happy to say that without even advertising this too much, by just sending it in our groups, so far we've been able to raise almost about 1.75 to 1.8 lakhs. A good part of it went towards the slums in Koramangala. Some part of it has gone in Belandur, where Rupal has been coordinating, and some parts have gone into some of these slums in Nagvarapalya and C.V. Raman Nagar, and a couple of them in Hebbal as well. So every bit helps. Even if you contribute 1,000 rupees, it can feed a family for almost about 8 to 10 days. So we request more and more people to get onto the platform and donate. And that's something that you can do, again, sitting right in the confines of your home. It doesn't have to be through Adopt a Slum. There are other organizations like Give India. There is With Bengaluru, which has been collecting money through Milap, etc. So there are multiple platforms where you can go and contribute money. Of course, you're free to contribute to the CM scheme, the Prime Minister's scheme. But if you're able to identify something which is very close by, these are the platforms on which you can do that. And lastly, even in terms of how you can coordinate any of these relief activities without even getting out, if you're able to identify 1 or 2 people, and what we are doing right now in some of these slums is, we need a coordination point. And the good thing is, there are these people from within the slums who are fairly ethical, who have this sense of balance and sense of making sure that everybody needs to get the benefits, who are out there. So if we're able to coordinate with them, we don't even need to step out. We just talk to them, understand how many families are in need, how much is the requirement, and with that, either you can again come back to our on our groups, you can post it, or again you can go to any of these other organizations, place the requirement, and if you pass the coordinating point person's contact details, the NGOs and people that we are interacting with, they can coordinate with them and deliver it within a day or 2, maximum 3 days. So effectively, what I wanted to communicate is, there is a lot of things that we can do sitting right in the confines of our home without even having to take a foot out. And we strongly urge that people who do not have the Corona Warriors pass or who are not authorized to step out, please do not step out. There are enough people out there carrying passes who can do that, and we can help identify that. But of course, if you do carry a pass, please do step out and take all the precautions that are needed, wearing your mask, making sure that you are carrying your sanitizer. And one of the most difficult things that we are seeing when we are trying to distribute provisions is getting people to maintain social distancing. So we have to keep reiterating that point, ramming home that point. Beyond a point, it's difficult to control them because they're all in desperate need of food. So there is a tendency to overcrowd. There's a tendency to pounce on any relief material that comes in. So that's where we have to make sure that we are coordinating with either one or two or max 3 people from the respective areas. And what we're also trying to do is we are not giving significant material one shot. The moment you do that, there is scope for misuse and abuse. So we are trying to send it in smaller packets, let's say for 10 families, 15 families, so that people cannot indulge in hoarding or people do not indulge in any nefarious practices. So these are the things that we've been doing across different areas. I've been personally coordinating in my area for a couple of slums here. And in my case, the other good thing that has happened is there is one resident in my apartment who has a farm in Anantapur. They get a lot of vegetables from their potatoes, onions, tomatoes, and a few greens as well. And every week, there's a big chunk that's coming from there. And we've just coordinated with these local volunteers and been distributing that to the local slums as well. It doesn't even need us to step out. We're just keeping it near our exit area. People are just coming there, 3 or 4 of them coming and picking it up and going back. So there's a lot that we are doing. There's a lot that we can do. So we request, we urge more and more people to take part, contribute in whichever way you feel comfortable. Every small deed definitely is worth the effort. So let's all pledge to unite for the cause. I personally believe that the situation is going to continue for at least another 3 to 4 weeks because there's a good chance that the lockdown might be extended for a week or two, at least in Bangalore. Even if the lockdown is removed, for people to get back into a job, it's going to take some time. So the situation is going to continue for at least the next 3-4 weeks. So it needs as many helping hands as can participate, donate, contribute for the cause. So that's the pledge that we want everybody to take, and feel free to contribute in whatever little way you can. Even if you can contribute 500 rupees, it will still reach a needy family. So let's all do that. So Badri, that's pretty much what I wanted to communicate. And lastly, before I hand it over to you, I wanted to thank Brinda Adige and Global Concerns. When we started this program of Adopt a Slum, we couldn't set up a new bank account where we can collect money, or we couldn't tie up the back end. And Brinda was available for us to take care of all of that. So we are using the Global Concerns organization's bank account for receiving any contributions and donations. We are using Global Concerns backend, which has been working extremely well with their backend tie-up with Metro. So extremely thankful and obliged to Brinda for having supported us in this hour of need. Of course, she and Global Concerns, they're already doing a lot of work. But with this tie-up, we've been able to reach out to quite a few other slums and needy families across the city as well. So thanks to them, and of course, thanks to all the other organizations with Bengaluru, Give India, Sampark, Hasiru Dala. There's so many of them doing fabulous work and really brilliant stuff that they are doing. So hats off and thanks to all these organizations. BNP as an organization is committed to supporting all the organizations as well as the government. I think the government's machinery has also started kicking in place. So that's also started working well. So here is to providing all the support that everybody needs to make sure that over the next few weeks, we are providing support to all the needy families. Over to you, Badri.
Thank you, Srikanth. Thanks for sharing your update about a variety of things that are happening under the BNP umbrella and otherwise. Before we go on to questions, friends, a lot of us, we discovered a lot of us, some of us at least, do not have a Twitter account, etc. We'll work together to put that in place and make the next event much more of a Twitter heavy activity, etc. Right? We're all, we have turned out many tools to be socially relevant and socially relevant and to serve society. These days, information, Twitter, Facebook, used properly are very important tools too. So we will try and do that. That's an interesting discovery we made today. Rupal, can I start with some questions for you? There are a couple of questions coming this way. Many people have asked this question. Given the challenges, the many challenges that come up, etc., what do you think is more relevant? concerned people, giving money, donating money, is that more important, or being physically there, helping, help understanding their problem, finding solutions, which is more important? I'm sure one of the answers is that both are very important, but just for a discussion, if one had to choose between these two, a couple of people wanted to know, which do you think is more important? Just giving more money, or being there and trying to find solutions, etc. Over to you, Rupa.
See, as Badri said, both is important, but being on ground is something very different. And yeah, if you have a monetary support, giving it to an organization which is registered and where we know that it is going to a good place, or a place which is going to use it, the NGO which is going to use it for the needy, please donate it, because whatever we have, we should share, and whatever little that we can do, we should do. And going on ground is different. Now, see, the situation is different here in COVID with this pandemic, but I would rather prefer to be on a ground than, monetary help. Yeah, definitely we have done and we will be doing. And being on ground is more important, understanding the reality. As Shrikant said, that we should be very careful. And once we go, we come to know whether they are suffering or not suffering, whether they are getting enough or not. So yeah, being in ground is also very important, but you should be, at this moment, you should be very healthy enough. You should not have any, you should not be suffering from any of the ailments, and take very protective, you should be very protective about yourself, wearing a mask, though it may not help, because we don't know the coronavirus, how is it affecting, whether it's now they claim to be as airborne also, so we don't know actually. So we have to be very careful during this time, especially. See, other calamities, yeah, if anything else, yeah, you should be on ground, but this, I would rather prefer that be very careful while going out, be in your protective gears, and then only move out if you are 100% okay, and if you are taking protection, and after coming back home, you are taking enough, steps. You're not touching anything. You're directly, going for a bath and washing your clothes immediately in a soft water. All those things has to be taken care if you're going out on ground. Otherwise, yeah, going out on ground is more important. Yeah, financial help is important, but be on ground if possible. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rupal. Rupal, the next question also goes to you. What do you think will be the requirements in the next few months of this challenge? Right, we're all praying and hoping we come out of this very soon. It might take a couple more weeks, many more weeks than that. But after that, what do you think are going to be the challenges, and how can we prepare ourselves to help the needy and so forth?
So, as I said, the problem will now start when the migrant workers start coming to the city again. They would have lost job. They will not have a place to stay, and their families will be seen on the roads, and will find it very difficult when the things start becoming normal. See, every economy, when it falls, or when disaster, when it starts, the city starts recovering, we have seen there are a lot of issues that come. So we will see a lot of thefts happening in the houses. It has already started now. When I speak about my layout, we have seen 3 theft attempts in this last week, and because of hunger. See, people are suffering, they don't have work, and this all is going to happen. So you will have to be very careful while dealing with people. They may come to you asking for work, they may come to you looking out for a work and all, but be careful while giving them work. And on the second hand, please be helpful when you see a genuine family suffering. So it will take some time. The city will take some time. The main issue will be again no jobs. When they come back, it's going to take 6 months. It's not only weeks. It is going to take more time to come back from this thing, because most of the migrant workers by this time would have gone. At this moment, they go to their villages for farming. It's an harvest time, and they would have gone. They are stuck here. They are not going for harvesting, or if they have reached, they are not allowed harvesting in their fields by the police. So there will be a lot of hunger issues, lot of money issues, monetary issues, which we will have to deal with. Yeah. So just take care of all these things, and while hiring, while giving jobs, or while helping others, please be very careful.
Thanks, Rupal. Another message that I've got on the same topic is for all of us, in the sense, don't let donation fatigue set in, right? We're already almost in the third week. We've got multiple requests for donations, etc., etc. While we've seen that the donations have gone down week after week, we need to brace ourselves. We cannot allow donation fatigue to set in. Society will need all of us to extend a helping hand for the next several weeks and so forth. So we also need to prepare ourselves for that in a mental way and be ready to do that extended service. That was a question from Gautam Kamath that I put to Rupal. Srikanth, the second part of Gautam Kamath's question goes to you. Before I pose that, team, if you have any questions, please type them on the chat window here. Or some of you who want to directly ask the question, I think I'll open the floor in a little bit. Okay, so back to Gautam Kamath's question, Srikanth. Gautam is suggesting that we need to create a disaster management cell at BNP to think about. I'm sure he is suggesting that this should think about the strategy needed to manage disasters like this, etc., and keep this city ready for disasters in future. Do you think that's possible? What are your thoughts, Srikanth? That's Gautam Kamath.
In fact, thanks for that question. I remember I was having a conversation with, in fact, Badri a couple of days back on this. If at all we had any doubts about doing BNP, I think this current situation has pretty much erased any lingering doubts that this is something that needs to be done. For the moment, forget about disaster management. At the very fundamental level, the reason why we have a municipal corporation, the reason why we have the ward structure, the reason why we have areas within wards is ultimately for execution and implementation to be decentralized. Whether it's a central government scheme or whether it's a state government scheme or whether it's situations like these, the true power of execution and implementation lies at the grassroots. And the more we are decentralized, I think the better prepared we'll be to execute any of these schemes. Today, the problem is, since the structure has not been properly implemented, today we are having this very bad situation of a lot of citizens and citizen groups having to get involved. In an ideal world, the citizens don't need to get involved in these kind of relief efforts. If there was a proper system that's maintained at the grassroots level, where the corporators over a period of time work along with the citizens, build proper ward committees, area sabhas, have different people taking on different responsibilities, get coordination happening between communities. I was just talking to somebody. We have created a great platform for apartments to come together through something called as Bangalore Apartments Federation. There is nothing which prevents us from getting different types of communities to work together and come together. So, for example, what has started happening is now we have a nearby slum and we have our own apartment and a neighboring apartment. We already have started interacting with them and see how best we can work together to take care of this problem at the local level. So the more we decentralize, the more we take care of the problem at the local level, not from the perspective of collecting money and so on, but from the perspective of distribution. In fact, if you look at the PDS system, that's what it is intended to do. Unfortunately, all of these things have not been worked upon properly. They've been deliberately kept very, very inefficient. And that's all coming home to roost today in a situation like this. So yes, we believe that the whole structure of the city corporation, the wards, the areas and the area sabhas within that is ultimately the answer, not just as a response to disaster situations like these, but also to implement any kind of government schemes. We are talking of Swachh Bharat. Some experiences are now becoming even more interesting because the slum that we are interacting with nearby, they don't have toilets. We are talking of an open defecation country and a Swachh Bharat campaign by the Prime Minister. But the Prime Minister's own party men who are elected representatives here don't seem to care about that. 20 years that slum has been there, there are no toilets there, and people are still defecating in the open. So we believe that the power of execution and implementation or a response to such disaster management programs is absolutely at the grassroots level. A strong organization building, strong team building, strong community building has to happen at the grassroots level, and it has to be done by each corporator, every ward committee, and all area sabhas coming under a ward. And that's our again commitment to the city of. I don't know if it answers the question, but it's a little bit of a perspective around how things need to be.
Thanks, Srikanth. Thanks, Vijay. I had a couple of questions lined up for Arun. But Arun had to leave. I'll see if I can post the question. I think they were somewhat detailed, specific to migrant workers. I'll leave them for later. Vijay Rao and Satish both kind of asked a similar question. Let me kind of put that to Srikanth. Not only we are talking a lot about the migrant workers and their challenges, very rightly so. Their pain is huge compared to what anybody else, several others might be experiencing. But both Satish and Vijay point out the challenge that is happening in the white collar jobs area. Now everybody seems to be aware and worried that there is some kind of an economic slowdown coming. There's probably some kind of layoff coming. Vijay says that his friends have already started noticing that there are pink slips going around. So this is affecting the mental health of people. People are overworking just to make sure that they are out of trouble, etc., which itself is causing yet another challenge in terms of mental health, etc. I know Lalita has also spoke about this dimension of mental health. But first, Srikanth, if you can try and add some thoughts on that.
Hey, honestly, I'm not the right person to answer a question because I don't think I'm equipped to answer that. I understand that obviously the situation is becoming worse every passing day. And yes, I believe that from an economy standpoint, we all need to be prepared for a fair amount of turbulence over the next few months, whether it's white collar or blue collar or across the board. So yes, mental health, depression, people suffering from just the sheer fact that there could be a worry about a loss of a job or a reduced pay, etc., and it could have a ripple effect on the families. So more than me responding to how we need to tackle that, all that I can say is, as Badri, you also rightly said, Lalita has already identified somebody. Over a period of time, we probably need to have counselors, psychologists, probably taking sessions for people. I know of an organization called as One-to-One Help, which actually deals with psychological counseling for people. Yes, as an organization, we will work with such other groups and corporates and organizations to see if we can create some kind of a helpline or some kind of let's say an inroad into these organizations which can provide mental support. But finally, how it is to be dealt with, I think we have to leave it to the experts. I don't think any of us here are really equipped to say how people need to deal with such crisis. Yes, it needs to be dealt with. It needs to be tackled by experts. So hopefully we'll play our own little role in helping people get through to that. But I think it's a very important point that people are touching upon. It is going to be a big issue that's going to crop up over the next few months. Let's take it as it comes, and let's see how many people we can tie up with to provide that kind of a support to people.
I think Lalita was getting ready to answer. Please go ahead, Lalita.
Yeah, I am one of the volunteers, just as a counseling volunteer in my office called Mitra, and they actually sent out a organization-wide notice regarding this, saying that people can reach out to us, and also there are professional help. I think right time would be for the professionals to help us, experts. But having said that, see, with loneliness can just be as simple, right? Though you may be working, there are people who are in PGs, roommates gone away earlier to their places, having known or they had time before the lockdown. And this person was feeling so lonely in spite of work. She said, I'm feeling lonely, I'm feeling little depressed. What do I do? So in that context, see, we all jump into, see, the difference between the experts and all of us is that we go into the fixing mode. You do this, you go to YouTube, you go to this, why don't you learn a recipe? All this can be a good time pass and all this. Right? Even I went through that kind of fixing mode. So the expert who was there, her suggestion was, just as a point, I'm leaving it here, be empathetic, listen to them, what is it they are feeling. Secondly, what is it they think that they can help fix it? Because whatever we say may not be appealing. We said read a book, she said I am reading a book, but that's not interesting me. We said do a video chat with your family and friends. No, I one day I can do. 2 days she was actually thrilled, saying I thinking that she has got that personal time alone without friends or roommates and all this. But finally, 3 weeks is a long, long time. This could be one. Second is, see, I have a friend who has come back from on-site, but stuck up in Delhi during the quarantine time, and he is writing and reaching out to me, or this one, how can they come back? You may all have read about a lady who has gone biking and came back to Bangalore, I believe, about 1,000+ kilometers. So people are stuck up at different places and they are out of their families, away from their families, they are feeling lonely. There are other different types of it where all families locked down within four walls. Each of us used to see each other for certain time, right? A spouse would see, say example, I would see my husband for in a day. We all used to be out working out and coming in and seeing each other probably for a couple of hours. Now it's like 24/7. You enter a room, you see the same faces, right? There is a kind of little uh, uh, space that each of us require. It could be in-laws, it could be parents. There's a lot of domestic abuse has increased. That's in paper today. Domestic abuse has increased by 25%. They used to get 5 to 10 calls per day, but I think it has increased a lot. So there are different ways of this elderly people, because they cannot step outside. I can see my father himself just coming to the hall, sitting in front of TV, again going inside. They feel depressed because they are vulnerable. They are not stepping out too much. That is one more problem. So lastly but not least, everybody has a lot of household chores now. Each of us have to do. Some may have got used to within their own families helping hands, but for some where they have smaller kids as well, and if they are supposed to work along with this is quite a big challenge. People are getting overwhelmed and they were asking what to do. I think, to summarize, there are various type of mental health. I mean, it could be overwhelming, feeling my kitchen is not good and all this. So it's okay. Just calm down. This is the first time we all are going through it. So let's relax. That's the point was left. But I think a session on this note, because this is not just this 3 weeks lockdown, right? People have gone through certain trauma in 3-4 weeks, and then how to come out of it. I think an expert is a better equipped one to suggest. So I think that is my input. I can lead from simple mental disturbance to various different types that I just said, and many more. So I think just imagine having younger kids with you with no helping hand, and you have to work and you have to time slice with the family members to take care of them. It's so difficult, right? So with this, I will, I think, stop here. We will probably, Shrikant, I think we should arrange one session so that people will get a different insight about it.
Absolutely, Lalita. I think that's something that we should
Lalita?
definitely do. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I agree with Lalita and Shrikant. We need a different session because if I see my own example, the trauma that I went through during the cyclone and earthquake was I took 6 months to come out of the earthquake thing. I was shifted from Gujarat to Mumbai, and I stayed there for 6 months, and I could feel the tremors even if they were not coming to Mumbai. I could feel them because it was on myself, and I could feel them. And I need somebody to talk to me, somebody to hold me at that moment when the tremor is to come. Or so professional help is needed in some cases, and specifically during this time when you have a layoff or when you have a family to take care. And there are so many things. Even women, kids are most affected. They are not going out, they are not playing out, and they also need counseling at a point of time. So we should have a different arrangement for one session from an expert on this. Yes.
Imagine kids are now with this lockdown, nothing, nobody to play. You're not allowing them, right? They are sitting in front
Yeah.
of screen. How much time do
Yeah.
you let them? So in day before in one of the Baki Bath, psychologist said maybe 1.5 hours is good enough. You guys decide. After that, my elder one has decided 1.5 hours every day. So she gives me that example. So we need this one. May not be Sunday, maybe next week, whenever we find the right time. I think it's good. We should have.
Thank you.
Yeah, over to
Indeed,
you.
it's an important topic. I'll throw the floor open for direct questions. Just looking quick time check. We have another 15 minutes to go. No problem winding up a little earlier. Akshay, if you can shoot your question.
Yeah, hello Badri and hello all. This is Akshay from ward number 26, and I have two questions back to back. My questions are to all the members here. Post my questions, maybe you can share your opinion. And my first question is, many of the BNPNs, as we know, are really putting our efforts amidst the current crucial lock, and which would get stringent further down the line. And yes, we are really getting down on field to serve the poverty-stricken group, coming up with different numerous ideas, and I don't think we as BNPN would get a better elbow room to prove our generosity and well-wishing to Bangaloreans in a way. Yeah. And having said, are we really branding up BNP in an essential and necessary way during this crisis? Is our brand getting augmented? It's a question basically. So because now it's a risky atmosphere for any of us to be dare enough to approach areas where sanitation or be it hygiene and nattiness is really taken for a toss. So I request each one of you to think how can we brand up at this time and not in a very overwhelming or aggressive manner. To say maybe a rough A4 printout of BNP logo if you're riding on a vehicle will do. That is my suggestion basically. And that is what I wish, because in future every bit of our good work should reflect BNP as a mark where people would be aware of what BNP is an organization as, because it shouldn't become too late for us to grab what we have done for all these years and then attest those good works to BNP mark post all our efforts. Yeah. And also, in spite of our public broadcast on social medias predominantly, our work shouldn't go to vain in a hello.
It's audible. Please continue.
Yeah. So, and also in spite of our public broadcast on social medias, predominantly what we do, our work shouldn't go to vain in reality as far as BNP brand goes. So this is my intention, suggestion to all to give a thought now about people knowing what BNP is, because most of our BNP people being there, solving issues, coming up with possible ideas, but under what? For an instance, when most of us spend efforts in a slum, we doing it as an individual or a group, but where is BNP brand? Yeah. So people, please give a thought, and as I said, smoothly propagate and in a very oblique manner. My second question is, am I too early to bring up this point?
Okay. So Akshay, I think the first question was how do we or should we be looking at using this opportunity to leverage the BNP brand And very rightly, you followed it up with a question: is it premature? Is it appropriate to talk about it? Any volunteers who would like to try and answer that question?
More than volunteering to answer, I think in terms of putting out our ethos very firmly on the table, at least for the benefit of the people who are here. So first of all, call ourselves old-fashioned or probably not in tune with how all the political parties behave. So first up, whatever work BNPNs are doing or anything that BNP is doing was definitely not started with the perspective of building out BNP's image or brand in a situation like this. The last thing that we want to do is to leverage a situation which is so horrible at this current point of time and see how we can win more supporters. That's something which we definitely are not interested in. So that's something that I want to leave behind as a thought. I don't think anybody in the system should be looking at doing any kind of volunteering work with a view to thinking about how we can build our brand. Having said that, I believe that any good work that you do will automatically bring its reward at some point, even though that should not be the expectation here. So just to give a perspective here, many of us who've been working with our local groups, we've already been able to build a good connect with some of them, and they understand that we are doing this more to support them and not with any other intent. So I would strongly suggest that we stay away from doing any formal branding or any kind of marketing exercise out of this. Whatever we are doing, I'm very confident that it will help us build better relationships with people who are in need, and that at some point will help us in some way or the other. This is not the time to think about branding or marketing, whatever we are doing. Let that come out spontaneously. Let that come out voluntarily in a way where we all feel for the cause and we want to donate. That's the ethos that we've been building, and that's the ethos with which many of us are in this together. Any kind of a brand building, any kind of a marketing, there are opportunities in the future that we will have, occasions that we can use to do that. But this is not the time to talk about that or even think about actively doing that. Of course, other thoughts are always welcome from others, but we've been having discussions at the core working group on this, and this is a conscious call that we have taken at the core working group level, that we are not here interested in trying to leverage the situation for scoring any brownie points with anybody out there. So that's the viewpoint that I want.
I'm Subbu Hegde here. See, we have to differentiate BNP from the other normal political parties, and not doing the same kind of publicity itself is kind of a branding for us. By not going the same way, we are showing that we are different, and that itself is a branding, in my opinion. So, as Srikanth also said, let us keep doing the good work. And our main stakeholders are educated people who live in apartments and complexes. I'm sure they'll get the message.
Thank you, Subbu. And I think Subbu and Srikanth, two of our founding elders, have clearly articulated, the DNA, the philosophy of BNP. And thanks for that question, Akshay. I think the conversation should go on. Hey, I noticed something interesting.
Hello.
I have at least.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hold for a second?
But I just want to make one small point here.
Sure.
It's not any type of branding or anything like that. So I was just sharing an experience. So we had myself and Drupal had been helping out in one location, Junasandra. There I got to know one family who is from Kerala. It's not because he is from Kerala. So he just came to me for help, and I could help him. And further, after speaking to him, I came to know that he lost his father very recently, and after going for the cremation, when he came back, he lost his job. So now it is lockdown, and his family is in Kerala. His children are with his sister. Mother is staying alone. He doesn't have any job. He doesn't have any money. So he was reaching out to me for money, and I gave money I sent it to her account, and then I came to know that she has to buy her medicines, and there's nobody to buy medicine for her. So with 5 to 6 links, I could get medicine for her free of cost. So these are all things, that is so satisfying. So what I would like to say is we should not just stop with feeding people. If we are able to speak to them, and there'll be a lot more we could do. So with that, I'll close mine.
Thank you, Lali. Thanks for sharing that experience. Before any other questions, I just had an interesting observation. I have Mr. Narayan Bhatt who's logged in from Mysore. Anybody else from any other city in the world? Any non-Bangaloreans on the call? Okay, that's just Mr. Bhatt, I guess. Thank you, Mr. Bhatt, for joining us. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Kamesh. I just wanted to make one information here. We were talking about sorry, are you able to hear me?
No, Kamesh, I wasn't able to hear you. Anybody else offer an opinion? Yeah, others are able to hear you. So go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was saying, we were talking about the mental health and counseling, other thing. So on that note, I'm sure most of you would be aware. I'm just wanted to make information here that there is a mental health helpline has been initiated and it is operational for last 6 days now, which has been conceived by Department of Information and Personal Relation, Government of Karnataka, and they have got a very good qualified doctors. We can probably make a use of that, and if somebody can get them talk to that calling number, there are 2 numbers, that is good. Otherwise, when we were speaking about planning for a session for us, maybe we can approach them and try to find out if there is any doctor want to give some time, 1 or 2 hours, and then speak to us. That can also be a case. Okay. So in case if you don't know, there is a dedicated line, and it is available 10 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the evening, and panel of doctors are there, and I believe it's about 16 or 12 line. I may be a little incorrect in that number of lines, but it is heavily being used for last 1 week now. Just for information here, in case if it was needed.
Thank you, Kamesh. Kamesh, if you can share the number, we will also share it with the larger community. The more such information is spread,
yes,
valuable.
I could forward that information, Badri, directly to you, as there is a poster there by Government of Karnataka, and then you could probably cascade further. Okay.
Okay. Let me. Lalita, Kamesh is your friend from yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then let me take this opportunity to introduce everyone, Kamesh to all of you. Kamesh is doing a great job. He's full-time volunteering with the Government of Karnataka Corona Warriors. He is, I don't want to embarrass you, Kamesh, but minimum that I can say is he is doing a great job being at the center of the Corona Warriors effort. Thank you so much, Kamesh, and thank you to all the other volunteers.
Yeah, no issues. That's all. Thanks. I'll forward to you, Badri.
Yeah, thank you, please.
Sure.
I have one more quick question. Lakshmi here is asking this question. I'll request Lalita to answer this maybe. We are giving groceries, etc. But what about why is it going? What about other nutrients like vegetables, milk, etc.? Are we ignoring it? Is that going to become a challenge? That's Lakshmi's question.
Lalita here. See, I think at ward level, at few of the ward levels, I have seen, like in BTM and many other places, that along with the groceries, few vegetables like non-perishable ones like onion, potato or something, they are also being packed. I also saw a video of this Akshay Patra Foundation, which Government of Karnataka has tied up with for distributing, I think, a lakh of grocery boxes to all the needy people. There also they are trying to put 1 or 2 vegetables and milk powder and a lot of different nutrition. I think during this time, not everything can be done, but to certain extent, certain things are being addressed. And I think over the period, in some places, people are volunteering to give vegetables only, or maybe add one fruit and give. It need not be groceries all the time. Right? People are doing at levels, and I think it's a learning right now. We are all learning from this phase because we are facing this, at least in Karnataka, for the first time, right? All over the world is facing. I think with learning, I think we will also improve and take it forward with better nutrition and things required. And other thing, what I've noticed is, see, today I got a call that in some places the volunteering has become so much, like specifically the food distribution is getting duplicated. That is one query that I had. I think we need to address it at the ward levels, understand who is distributing, so that it need not be repeated at places. They can focus on specific areas. In second note, somebody told in one of the places, they are going distributing to very few people and then moving to other places in the spree of covering more area. That is something also being happening. People are disappointed to some extent there as well. I think we all need to keep that everything in mind and do our bit, slow and steady, right? That's what I opine.
Okay. Thanks, Lalita. We are almost at the end of the exercise, end of the session. I think all of us are sitting at home, and even this call has been an online call. I think we all need some exercise. So here's my suggestion for an exercise. All of you, please switch on your cameras. Of course, that one person who's sitting in his shorts, don't switch on your camera. Others all switch on your camera. And exercise, I don't think I can offer too much exercise for your arms and legs. Let's exercise our facial muscles. Switch on the camera and give a beaming big smile to everybody. I think that's the best exercise we can afford right now in this position. So please, come on. A lot of people are being shy.
This is what is expected to remove the barriers, right, Badri?
Absolutely. Okay. You know, I'm still waiting for 20 more people to get into our smiling exercise mode. Okay, that's nice. That's nice.
Badri,
Okay.
that's nice.
Okay. Who else? I guess you're not able to see me. That's a technical problem. I assume some others also
It's
have
not a technical problem. You've done something. We can see you. You don't want to show us your face.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, Badri, before we wrap up, can I make one last point, people?
Sure. Srikanth, where's your camera?
Yeah, I'm on.
Sure. Okay, sure.
So, the one point I wanted to make is, as a closing thing, is in all our efforts towards helping people, which is obviously very critical, let's not forget our animals and canine friends on the streets. A lot of these dogs on the streets are being deprived of their regular food, which people feed them. So in my own area, between my wife and a couple of our neighbors and a few other people from the neighboring areas, they all get together in the evening after around 8 o'clock. They go and distribute, or rather they give biscuits and leftover food to the animals. And these days, those dogs, about 20 of them, they are just congregating even before these people reach, knowing that they will come. So let's not forget our canines, let's not forget the street animals. They're also suffering big time. So let's take that also into consideration, and let's be an inclusive society.
So luckily our society has one volunteer in each lane feeding street dogs. So each volunteer has to feed every day. So all the houses have taken care of all the street dogs. I had 13 pets at one point of time. Now I don't have any at home, but all these small puppies that are outside the house just come and sit outside the house for the food. So yeah, that's a very
Yeah.
good point. Taking care of pets, dogs at this time, any animal, cats, dogs. So we have cows also nowadays. Owners have left the cows and went. So I don't see any owner, and the cow is poor. She's just on the road without food. Yeah, let's open our eyes and for them also. No? Yeah, good point, Shrikant. Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Shrikant.
Thanks,
Great
everyone.
note to
Bye.
close the call. Thanks for everybody who joined the call. Have a great day.
Take care,
Have a great
be
evening.
safe. Yeah.
Next call on Sunday, we'll give you information. Bye.
Are you able to take some kind of a screenshot and put on Twitter? Is it possible right now?
Okay, I did take a screenshot. Yeah,
You did, okay.
I will
Okay.
do that.
Okay.
Lakshmi Badri is very smart, huh? Lakshmi Badri is very smart.
Okay. That's good.
Taking the better half is very literally.
Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye.